It's me, Boo. And I'm just back with one I kind of threw to the head of the line because it's one I really wanted to share with you all. I'm very intrigued by this fragrance. It's I was lucky enough to get my hands on a sample. It won't be launched until next month, until January of 2013. And this is called Enchanted Forest, and it's by the Vagabond Prince. And I have to tell you, I was so lucky to get my hands on this because I think it was the perfumer that just randomly chose 500 people that were Fragrantica members to send this out to, and I was lucky enough to be one of the 500. So I got my sample, I think it was on Saturday, and I have been wearing it every day since. And you don't need much of it. It's really, really good sillage, really good projection, longevity. Oh, wow, wow. Excuse me. So here's my thing. It's called Enchanted Forest, and this bottle is going to be spectacular. It's really, really pretty. It's also unisex. Did I get that in the right angle? There, how's that? It's unisex, so it goes for anybody. It is a little on the masculine side. I think most women would be turned off to the first half of this fragrance. Not me. I was knocked on my keister by it. When it has it has such a split personality. Sorry, I don't know why I've got such a hoarse voice today, but it has such a split personality. It's a very much another fragrance that really fits my personality because I'm kind of like that too. I'm really nice, but when I get stressed out, I get really grumpy. This isn't grumpy or anything, but it is definitely two antithesis halves of the same perfume. So the first half does not match the second half. They are two completely different fragrances, in my opinion. But they're both incredible. The first half of the fragrance, I think, is the most masculine part of it. When this opens up, I get Enchanted Forest. I'm not even kidding. It is. I was raised up in the mountains and up in the woods. I was raised about 50 miles from the Canadian border here in Washington State. Very heavily major national forests. Places where Bigfoot have been sighted and, really, really up there in the mountains. And that's where I was raised. My parents taught me how to survive out in the woods if I got lost as a kid. I grew up on dirt bikes instead of bicycles, and snowmobiles, and could clean a fish by the time I was 5 after I caught it, and was teaching adults around the lakes to clean fish. I was just really one of those outdoorsy people. Knew what to do if bears were around, and mountain lions, whatever. So I have been out in the woods a lot. I find that is such a place of refuge for me is being out in a quiet forest all by myself. And this reminds me so much of a summer forest after a rain. And in a very special part of the woods for me. It's this part of the woods that's right by this creek. So it's a little moister. The air is a little moister around there. Even though you go about, on a hot summer day, if you walk about 100 yards away from this creek and away from those trees around the creek, then you get this hot forest smell and more of the drier aromas. This reminds me of standing by that creek where there's river rock lining the edges of the creek, and they're covered in moss, and water is trickling over the edges of these small rocks. You get all of those smells of the moss and the moist trees and the ferns, and I also get some juniper berries or something in there. But you also get the hot forest smells are still coming on the breeze and coming your way. So you're getting some of those hot pine kind of smells wafting by as you're enjoying this whole moist enchanted forest aromatic experience. you so get the pines, the hot and the moist pines. And like I said, you get the oak moss. I totally smell the moist moss that covers rocks up in the mountains next to a creek. I totally get that. And then this very enchanting thing happens. It dries down, and it's as if you're following that creek and you're following it downstream, and you come across just a whole acre full of black currant that's surrounded by these pines, and this creek is just running through the middle of it. This fragrance never gets dry, but it never is dripping wet at the same time. It's very moist. It's a very moist forest kind of a fragrance, but at the same time, like I said, you do get those dry forest smells coming through that I enjoy a lot too. The dry forest part would be made out of cedar, and the wet forest part that's next to the creek would be more of the pine. That's kind of what I'm talking about. So you get the wet pine and the dry cedar coming together with those mossy rocks and the creek going, meandering through. And then you follow it down into a patch of black currant, and you're just sitting in the middle of that black currant on a summer's day in the middle of a forest after rain. It sweetens up, and it gets just this rich, it's almost like a black currant resinous kind of a smell. It has such depth to it. And you get a little vanilla and benzoin or something else in there. But it's really focused on the forest with the black currant. And like I said, you get a little bit of juniper berry in there, some fern, things like that. Just everything, that all the smells that are in the forest is totally here. Oh, amazing. This is amazing. I'm going to tell you what's in it. I'm not sure if these are top notes or bottom notes. They might be flip-flopped or whatever, but I'm just going to read you. I think the top notes are pink pepper, aldehydes, weird. I usually hate aldehydes. Orange, blackcurrant flower and leaf. Hawthorn, rum and wine, rosemary, davana. Looks like the mid notes are blackcurrant buds, absolute. CO2, blackcurrant, and CO2 is just carbon dioxide. Russian coriander seed, honeysuckle, rose, carnation, and vetiver. Base notes are opopanax, siam benzoin, amber, fir balsam, absolute, patchouli, castoreum, absolute, cedar, vanilla, musk, and oak moss. I don't get a lot of, even though, I shouldn't say that, because I did say that this is the whole forest experience aromatically, which would include, I think I just have been I get so used to the low-lying, just faint in the background animal notes when I'm walking through the forest, unless I'm right up on a bear or a cougar or something, heaven forbid. But, and I have been, not a cougar, well yes, a cougar, but a bear definitely, several. And anyway, I guess unless you're right up next to them, you don't realize that there is, when you're walking through a forest, just a slight, just a hint of animalic kind of an odor in the bottom. I think I just associate it with the other earthy smells that the trees grow out of. But so I might be getting a little bit of animalic in this. But if there is, it's not much. And there's not a lot of aldehydes. It is really bright and effervescent at the top. But because of the pine and the wet pine, the hot cedar, and the moss, it really doesn't give me a headache and give me problems like a lot of aldehydic fragrances do that are really heavy on the aldehydes. So I don't think this is heavy on aldehydes. I do get the vetiver, and when you first spray it on, I think that's where I'm getting the juniper berries and the ferns, and some of that is by some of the spices and the hawthorn that they've gotten here. I don't get rum and wine so much. really at all. I don't get a lot of rum and wine or any kind of a boozy smell. Blackcurrant is super prominent in this. And there's, it sweetens up to the point where there, again, you're walking through that forest, so there probably is some wild roses growing. And, it's just this hint of sweet on the air when you're walking through a real live forest. And you get that here until it dries down, and then it really sweetens up because of the black currant and I believe the vanilla. Yeah, there's vanilla in here too. Again, really well blended, but at the same time, major split personality as far as a fragrance goes. It really is two different fragrances. It's almost like kind of masculine the first half and then more feminine the second half, but totally able to be worn by either. I'm so going to be buying a bottle of this. It's very unique. It's not that pine saw kind of pine forest smell at all. This is totally natural walking through the forest kind of a smell. I just can't say enough about it. I think this is going to be in my top 30 can't get rid of kind of bottles once I get my hands on it, because this is amazing. Really well done. So again, that's the Enchanted Forest, and it's by the Vagabond Prince, a new perfumer. And Enchanted Forest will be released. I'm not sure exactly where. It didn't really say. But as I find out more, I'll let you guys know. I would check, though, definitely with places like Lucky Scent and, I don't know, maybe even Indie Scents and Min, places like that. Because I don't think this guy is going to be going right to Nordstrom's or anything to sell his fragrances, or Barney's. But what do I know? So anyway, that's where I would suggest checking first next month. But like I said, once I find out, I'll let you know. All right. I hope you all have a good New Year. And I hope you have a good Christmas.
Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree?